Hello. Today is November 22nd, 2023. I'm meeting today with Mr. Jeff Gruver at his home, west of Loveland, Colorado. My name is Brad Hoops. I'm the interviewer for the Northern Colorado Veterans History Project. Welcome, Jeff, and thanks for sitting down today to tell your story.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Let's start out, if we could. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your date of birth, where you were born, a little bit about your family.
I was born March 1960, and I was born at Vandenberg Air Force Base. And so my father was an aviator too, so I seem to work with that. And let's see, what else did I need to know?
Any siblings?
Oh yeah. Got a sister, 2 years older than me. She was born in Guam because my father was in Guam at the time, so that's kind of interesting. So it's just the two of us and Ma and Pa, and we moved all over the place.
So he was career Air Force?
He was career Air Force. He'd been 30 years. Yeah.
So the Air Force brat that moved around every 2 years and
yes.
pretty much, or
yes. And that's not a bad thing. I enjoyed moving around.
Did you? Yeah, that was my next question. I mean, for someone that grew up in the same town his whole life, I was always fascinated by the military families.
Yeah.
And what were some of the bases or some of the places in the world that you guys lived?
Well, unfortunately, we didn't get to go out of the U.S. until I grew up, and then they went to Germany.
Oh, okay.
Like but anyways, after we lived in Vandenberg, we went up to Malmstrom Air Force Base up in Montana. Beautiful place. I don't remember a whole lot of it, but it was a beautiful place. From there, we went back to California while my dad went off to Vietnam. So then we were with some of the relatives at that point in time. And then Florida, Fort Walton Beach, nice place. I'm a water guy. After that, we went to Ohio for only 8 months, and that was good. We didn't like it there. And then we went to Barksdale Air Force Base, and at that point in time, my father was no longer flying, but he did the security type work, and he loved it. He just really enjoyed that stuff. And Knob Noster, Missouri, if you've ever heard that.
No.
That's Whiteman Air Force Base. Actually, a very nice place. I liked it. And after that, I went to Georgia, and I worked for 3 months, and then off to college to Utah State University. And that was the trip around the U.S. as a kid growing up.
Now, growing up in an Air Force family, I mean, was that the plan all along to you eventually enlist, or what? Or was that an influence for you to go off and serve then, or?
It was all about for me as a kid. I loved aviation from the beginning. I don't know why or how. My dad flew helicopters, did a really good job of it, but he really didn't talk about flying much. And I was that kid that had, 10 airplanes, on top of my ceiling when I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
And so I was just completely, totally enamored by aviation. And of course, as we're going to all these Air Force bases, wherever we landed, there would be aviation. So that's kind of where I got started there. Yeah.
And what was your degree in college then? Did you?
Aviation technology.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. And when I was in Barksdale, I looked at some magazines and some articles about hang gliding, and I went and I built my own hang glider when I was 12. And my mother was freaking out, and my dad's so funny. He goes, "Let the kid fly, Fran." That's so great. And I flew, and the damn thing flew. Not very well, but it flew. And then I ended up mowing a bunch of lawns, and then I built, or I was able to buy a good hang glider and I started flying all the time. And
Self-taught?
I had one encounter with these guys that would teach in the weekdays, and I heard about them on the news. I think, Dad, get a hold of those guys. How do we do that? And somehow, some way, I actually the old days I got in the what we go to find things, and I found those guys on their news station, and the news people told me who these guys were. So the next weekend, Dad took me down there, and I got my first hang glider lesson, and that was that.
Oh,
yeah, it was. I mean, that was that. I can remember every little bit of that thing, so, and it just kept going.
Yeah. Wow. So in college, were you an ROTC, or did you enlist after you got?
I was not an ROTC. I went to OTS, Officers Training School. So of the three options, that's the one that I took. But while I was at Utah State University, I was teaching hang gliding down by Salt Lake City, and so I got to keep doing that, and had some friends. And that's when I got my private license too at Utah State University, and that's where I got going there.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful place to fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you graduated from college and then went into the Air Force, or?
Went into the Air Force, you bet. That was the plan the whole way, and Dad was helping out, Of course, he'd been there for many, many, many years, and he helped out with the process and everything. And off I went on a airplane to, where was it, San Antonio, and everybody in our class got in the thing, and off we went to Loveland, I think, Air Force, where they did the name of the excuse me, Officers Training School.
Okay.
And met all my best friends, and it's not like one of those places where somebody's yelling at you as soon as you get off the bus, but they're pretty stern. They want to keep it kind of in between. And then off we went, and off went my hair, and we got all of our things to wear and all this stuff like that. And the next thing we knew, we were just 16 hours a day, just doing what you do to become an officer, and just 2 months. Yeah, it's pretty quick. They can turn you around pretty fast, and they did a good job of it, I would say, yeah.
And then from Lackland, after training,
That's when I got a slot, a flying slot, and that was down to Lubbock, Texas, which no longer exists, unfortunately. It was a great place.
Reese.
And that's Reese Air Force Base was the name of it, and that's where I started flying real airplanes, jets, and.
Did you have, when you got in, did you have a preference as to what you wanted to get in jets, or a fixed, or a multi-engine?
That is interesting, because most of the guys, they want to, or guys and gals now, want fighters, or they want this and that or the other things, and if you don't want a fighter, then, who are you? I was kind of looking to go to that, I wanted to be an airline pilot. Something hit me. I wanted to be an airline pilot. Fly all the time. You see all these different places. Loved the Air Force, but I just felt like, well, maybe I'm going to do that. So when towards the end of your flying training, you put down what you want to get, depending on how well you did. Like the first guy in the class that was obviously the biggest brain in town, he's going to get whatever he wants. Everybody else, and then it just trickles down. But I wanted C-130, C-141, something like that. There was C-7.
KC-135.
Yeah, and that more like an airline type thing, thinking that would help me get into the airlines better. But when it came to the evening to where everybody finds out what you're going to get, I became a T-38 instructor pilot, because that's what they needed, and I did a fairly good job there, and they looked for that, And that, talk about your first airplane, the T-38, is unbelievable. It's like just like a Corvette. Simple, fast, good looking. I wish I could get one.
Yeah.
Beautiful airplane, and I taught. So I taught there for nearly 2.5 years, I think it was. And then from there, we were looking. All of my friends, we had so many good friends, and we all worked together and we flew together. And then everybody started kind of going off to their next assignment, and that didn't feel right. So we go, well, let's see if we can find something different. Well, I ended up going to a thing called ACE, which is Accelerated Co-Pilot Enrichment, and it was at Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota. Mm-hmm. Another beautiful place.
Yeah.
And our job was, at the time they had B-1s and KC-135s, and as you would imagine, there's a lot of fuel going through those airplanes when these people are flying. So they came up with the idea of the new guys coming in and using our T-38s, or we would train them up to the point to where they too could go fly and stuff, and very little fuel comparatively. Great assignment. That's just what we did. We taught those guys how to fly the T-38 and all those kinds of things, and wonderful. Yeah, another great place to go.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell them who was at the ACE detachment, the 4 pilots in the squadron. There were only 4 guys.
Yeah, that's true. There was only the 4 of us instructors, and I think we had like 30 co-pilots to groom, and it was like just hand on the jet and go, and it was like, yeah, and so I guess I'm going to my next adventure. I had taken a T-38 to go visit my aunt and uncle, and they lived in the Bay Area. Every once in a while, we could go just solo, because you still got to keep your grit. And so I flew down there. Monday pops up. It was a naval airfield where I was, and I was walking around my T-38 and getting it ready to go. Take off, and just about 2 or 3 minutes after takeoff, I realized I had an engine problem. Not a big deal with the T-38. It's got 2 engines, but I went, I don't want to turn around and go back to the
Navy base.
Yeah, the Navy base, because they probably don't have any T-38 stuff. And I went to myself, I think they got SR-71s up there at Beale Air Force Base, and I'm just gonna go over there because it wasn't very far away. So sure enough, I had to declare an emergency, but it wasn't an emergency, but you have to. Landed. They parked me. Got out of the T-38, and the maintainers are coming around saying, what was wrong? What did you feel? What did you do? And, okay, you're going to be here overnight because we're probably going to have to put a new engine in your airplane. So I'm like, no, okay. And in the meantime, while I'm listening to this, and this was a beautiful day, I look up and I'm going, what is this? It was these crazy looking airplanes with these crazy long wings, just kind of flying around and doing touch and goes. And so, what is this? And the guy that was standing next to me, next to my broken airplane, he goes, where you been, man? This is Beale Air Force Base. We have SR-71s and U-2s. I said, I didn't think we had any U-2s anymore. He goes, nope, this is where to go for U-2s. I said, that's incredible. Well, I'll go get a room and everything for the night, but is there any way I can get any contact with one of these U-2 people? And he says, this is before, the phones. And here, right this time, he gives me so I got to my queue room, and then I made that call. And the guy that answered was one of the U-2 guys and a trainer and all that stuff. I said, hey, I just came out here and I broke my airplane, T-38, and is there any way I can get out there see some of this stuff. He goes, be out front in 10 minutes, I'll be there. So he picked me up, and we went out there, and this is another one of the greatest, a side duty is taking basically a race car and chasing airplanes.
Yeah.
And that's what we did for about 2 hours, was flying behind the U-2s and how that works, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah,
maybe.
please.
And I was just, again, aghast by what was going on here. This is just crazy. We got done, I guess about 4:35 in the afternoon, and he says, well, you want to come over to the squadron bar and have a cool beer? And I said, well, no, I don't want to do that. Okay. So when we went and got in there, and there were quite a few U-2 pilots sitting in there, I was just kind of sitting there quietly listening to some of the things they had done and what they were doing, and there was just a buzz with that squadron. It was beyond anything else I'd ever had, even though everything else I had was great. This thing was, you got to be kidding me. How does this work? Why do you do this? And all this stuff. So they started talking to me and everything, and I said, I think I just found my next assignment. And I needed to have one more assignment before I could get out of the Air Force to go, be an airline guy. So, and I was looking at other things. If I hadn't had that engine failure, I probably would have gone to one of the other things that they were offering me for the last,
Yeah.
So, came home, talked to my beautiful wife, because it's not a real good thing for people that they're going to be gone a long time. U-2s, they go places.
Yeah.
And they stay in places. We talked about it, looked at it, and like she always would say, well, if you want to do that, do that. I said, no, come on, really, you know what's going to go on here. Yeah, let's do it. So it's a 2-week process to interview for the YouTube program. And so I got out there. The first week is you're working with ops and DOs and colonels and trainers and stuff like that. They're just trying to find out, first of all, do you really know, how long you're going to be gone? Do you really realize that, you're going to be here, you're going to be there, there's going to be weird stuff? Do you realize? They're really trying to make sure that you're going to be the person that's going to go, that's what I want to do. There's no way I'm not going to do that. And there's others that say, that is kind of a little too much maybe, So that's what they're trying to find out. Are you the one that's not going to be whining?
Right. Yeah.
And I wasn't going to be whining. And then the second portion of the interview was actually 3 flights in the U-2. We had the U-2s with 2 cockpits. And they would put us in the back seat because that was a little bit better to see. And we would take off, and I think, as I recall, go up to about 10,000 feet. And the instructor would do some things, because this is a weird airplane. This is a really weird airplane. And we learned some of this stuff. The big thing is you have to learn how to fly the U-2. Very, 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 very difficult to fly U-2. If you can't quite do that, you go home.
And to land it.
Landing, yeah. The landing is really,
Right.
it was really weird.
Yeah.
But because of all the weird flying I'd had as a kid and, tail draggers and all that stuff, I just fell right into it.
Really? Yeah.
Just fell right into it.
I gotta imagine it's a pretty selective program. No.
Well, it is a selective. I think there's only, now the SR-71's gone, but it was selected. The U-2 and then the Thunderbirds. Those are the ones you have to go interview with. Everything else, MPC can make you do it. That kind
Okay.
of stuff.
All right.
So going to the U-2 is something that you really put a lot of thought into before you do. Think of your wife, your kids, things like that. But anyways, I aced the interview, and they said, "You're in."
Wow.
And so that was that. And then it's flying, as I recall, training in the U-2 is about 3 months, 2 months, 3 months, something like this. It's been a long time. And the training was good, and it's usually just one-on-one. Whereas like in Reese Air Force Base, there's a whole
Class.
7 of us out there or whatever. So one-on-one, you just get, more about having to land the plane and all that stuff, and then, systems and all those things that you have to do with any airplane. And then at some point in time, it's like, all right, tomorrow we're going high. And, it's not tomorrow. You're going to lead up to the point to where you're going to go high, because it takes about a week of training in the classroom just to read all this stuff about how the thing works, and the spacesuit and all these things, and very, very strange, odd, wonderful airplane. So the first time then that you suit up and you go out with your instructor and you walk into the jet, and you walk up inside and sit down, and you go like this, and all these techs just dive over you and start hooking you up to stuff, and all you're doing is sitting there going, pretty interesting stuff. Again, everything in that program is interesting. First high flight, hard to describe. I knew that, the takeoffs are phenomenal. Just phenomenal. But now we're going to do that, and we're going to keep doing that, and keep doing that. And first one is about 2 to 3 hours on that high flight, and you're just getting used to, working with even just your gloves and things, and you're just getting used to what the airplane does and what it doesn't do, and you're talking all kinds of, what's happening and this and that and the other. And then you come back down and you do several touch and goes, taxi back in, and then after that you just start working with, reconnaissance equipment and the things that you're going to use when you head out to go fly. And that takes about another 2 weeks to get the high flight portion ingrained into you solo. First time you go up solo in a U-2, that's pretty cool. Yeah, nobody to talk to.
They have a big party.
Yeah, yeah. I forgot about that. We got to have some fun stuff here too. Yeah. When you do you get the job, and now you have to have a solo party when you solo. So it turns out that one of the guys that lives here, he was in my class, and so we had to do the solo party together. And by the way, when you come out of the U-2 and step down the steps, they go bam, and they put your U-2 patch on, and you can't put that on until you made it, solo. So then we had the solo party.
Where do they hold it?
It's at the Heritage Room. We're not allowed to call them bars anymore, so it's the Heritage Room.
Okay.
And it's got a lot of history in there, and pieces of broken airplanes, and guys that we've lost, and pictures, other pictures, and it's a real solemn place.
And this is up at Beale?
This is Beale.
Okay.
It's in the squadron.
Yeah, I could get you there. I could. For what you do, I could get you
Oh
there.
yeah.
So and the whole thing is, you have an ejection seat, and they pull it out, and you sit down, and a yard of ale. You have to, whatever it is you drink. If it's soda pop, put soda pop in there. But I'm a beer guy, and then you have to drop a
They drop your U2 pin.
The pin.
Oh.
And it has to go to the bottom,
Into
and you
the bottom
can't
of the yard.
take it off your lips until it comes to your lips. So
Yeah,
there you
that's-
are, going like this, and everybody's yelling and screaming at you and throwing peanuts at you and all this stuff. It's just,
Dangling dead mice.
yeah, and I'm pretty good at it, and I got it down and whoo and everything, and then my buddy, he did it, and it took him for a while, but he got through it. And then it's kind of like, well, we're really in now, we're in, and so then after that, you start studying for where you're going to go for the first deployment, and it's always Osan, Korea, because Osan the base, we'll call it here, and then you've got about 60 miles
DMZ.
before you have the DMZ.
Mm-hmm.
So when you fly at Osan and something goes wrong, you've got a lot of communication capability back to the base and all the other stuff. Other places you go and you're gone, nobody knows where you are. And so at Osan, it's all about it's still a good mission, but it's a lot of kind of like doing this bow ties type stuff along the DMZ, but it's important. And if you are on your first deployment, on your first real mission, and I was I have to say, when I was getting ready to take off for my first mission out of Osan, there was a lot of like, this is real deal. I could end up in the news, and that's not good.
Yeah.
And it was, I fell in love with it again. Just like it on a day like this, where there's no weather, you're just looking over at the guns. It's like, look at this. I'm looking at the bad guys, and we're like three wingspans apart, from the bad guys. It's just crazy. You're right there. But you do it for 9 hours, and then you come back home because you're out of gas at about that point.
That's gotta, I would think, how is it mentally and physically? It seems like it'd be taxing. 9 hours of,
Well, first of all, I have to say that they go PSD, or the people that work with your pressure suits and make sure they're perfect for you. When you sit down in that airplane, it's as comfortable as anything you've ever sat in. They make sure of that, so that it's very comfortable. I would have to say that the worst thing is your nose scratches, but you can't scratch your nose.
Oh, right.
Because if you open up your baler bar, they call it, okay, you can probably do this, but what if it was the one day that went, you're dead. As soon as you open, you're dead.
Yeah.
So, as far as I know, all of my bros, they stuck to that, because I don't want to be that guy that is eating Snickers bars and stuff, because like I said, if it goes bad fast. So you sit up there. We have Gatorade and different things to drink. You really have to keep hydrated.
And through a tube, or how?
It's a thing about this tall, and it's got this long tube, and there's about 3 or 4 of them that they put down there. They ask, what do you want today? And those PSD guys, take it and put that in the cockpit, and no coffee, unfortunately, because I'm a coffee guy, but just to keep yourself going.
Yeah.
And we had tube food in the U2, which is kind of funny. They have hot dishes and then just regular cold ones, and it's like toothpaste tube.
Huh.
It just about the same thing as a big, and it's got the long thing. And in the helmet, there's a little trap thing, and you push it in there, and you sit there, and you kind of squeeze it down. But I tried to do one of the hot meals one time, and it really burnt my tongue. That's the last time I ever did that. So the rest of it was peaches and applesauce and stuff like that. And I only would have 2 in a 9 hour mission, and one would be right in the middle of the mission, and then right before descending, because you get busy when you're descending.
Yeah.
So get myself taken care of with the applesauce or whatever. So that's kind of another one of those weird U2 things.
Yeah. Huh.
There's this this little thing up here. It goes, food ready. Oh, food's ready. You know, it's like, what? It's this biplane and we got a food ready, like, you know. And then so that was my first real no-kidding mission out of Osan, and then you stay there for about 2 months or 3 months at a time. So you really get a lot of flying.
And how often? What was
Every
it?
third day.
Every third day. Okay.
Every third day. Yeah. And that's another thing that it deals with physiological issues. Like if you were to start doing that every day, the flight doctors start to tracking. You're starting to get the bends. And things start happening.
Oh wow.
So then they, with all the research and everything they did, they found that every third day is the way that you can still fly without starting to have symptoms and things like that. So typically at any of the other detachments, let's say that you're going to fly tomorrow, but you're going to be the guy today that helps the pilot get to the airplane in the whole 9 yards and suit them up and all that stuff. There are always two of us together. One is going to take off, the other one is going to have to be in that car, the chase car and all that. And then he flies, or she flies, she lands, and then since I was the mobile guy, tomorrow I'm the flight guy. I'm flying tomorrow. So you're studying what you're doing for tomorrow. And then the third day, you're just off. Do whatever you want to do. Go into town, whatever. So that's the kind of the process to keep people from getting the bends. And I have one bends quick thing.
Yeah.
My left knee would start to ache. That's the feeling that you get when you're bending.
Yeah. Right.
But we had this in the pressure suit. You could dial up your pressure suit, and push yourself up, and it sits there in about 30 seconds. It's gone. And so we learned how to deal with that, because almost all of us had that. But if the flight surgeons heard that,
Yeah.
they could pull you.
Yeah. Right.
So, but we all, hey, how are you doing this, and the new guys, do this and don't tell him you're telling him, that kind of stuff, because you got to do the mission. So, yeah.
On base, was there like a diving chamber, pressure chamber?
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah.
Oh yeah, they had big stuff there. Yeah, and plus at Osan they had a bunch of fighters and stuff like that, and they have the big, it's like a van full of people in there. They can do like 12 people in that thing. But the U2 program, it's one person in one chamber for training, and that's scary because it looks like a death chamber. Because the other ones we had was all your friends are in there, with the thing on. But when you're in the U2 chamber, it's like, well, they always put a little beaker of water in here, and they start bringing you up, and at 62 feet, 62,000 feet, the water starts boiling, and that's where you would start dying real quickly. If that, so it's just sitting there, the beaker, and you're looking at it going, it's kind of weird. I was always comfortable in the airplane. I never had anything other than the itchy nose. I was lucky. I was also lucky. I never had a problem with the airplane, other than one time I was going to an air show in Oklahoma, and my nav broke, and they told me to turn around and come back, and I did. Other than that, I was a very lucky guy. My airplane always was good, and everything worked out. Not so much for some other guys. There's a lot of paintings on the wall of friends that I've had that didn't make it back.
Oh, man.
And you can't, all kinds of different things. It's a quirky airplane, and there was quirky stuff.
Wow.
But
how was that psychologically? I mean, seeing these various pictures on the walls of
you
losing friends.
think about them.
Yeah.
You look at the faces and you think about them, and if you're out there doing the job, you're just like, this is for you, bro, and you think hard about it, and it's in aviation even the little T-38 things happen, because it's so damn fast. Great, great 4 years of flying, and then when it was my time to go, I went. And we went.
They only do it in a 4-year period, or
oh, no. You could be a U2 pilot until you can't live anymore. They actually, well, what I've been seeing recently, like this, I was just there last month. There's more people coming to the U2 for some reason. I don't know why. There was a time when there was a lull and they couldn't get any people, and you can't force them to do this job.
Right.
And there was a lull for a while. I don't know, but right now it looks like they got a good thing going. They got a lot of people coming in, and a Navy guy can they can look at it. The Army, any of the militaries, they can come and see if they can make a shot for it. So maybe it's that they brought up the more people coming, because for a while they needed more people because they had a lot of work. The U2s always have a lot of work. Anytime there's a bad guy, there's a U2.
Yeah. And so you not only flew the plane, but you had to operate all the reconnaissance equipment and such, or was that?
It just depends.
Yeah.
Mostly, and now when I was flying this airplane, it was 30 years ago, and it was still a pretty fancy airplane. But today, as what I'm hearing from some of the guys that I was talking to last week, he said it's not like anything you ever did in a U2. And of course, he couldn't tell me. Because I'm no longer one of the bros. And I said, well, that's incredible. And he says, I can't even tell you what's in the airplane, And so it's doing things that I never would have thought of, and they're doing it really well. I think that a lot of people wonder, why did the SR-71 go away and the U-2 still viable? When you think about an SR-71, and let's face it, even to a U-2 guy, that's the most beautiful airplane ever made.
Really? Yeah.
Oh my God, it's beautiful. We're the kind of the ugly duckling, in the U-2. That's all right. I was getting off track here.
Why the SR-71?
Yes, SR-71. As soon as it took off, it had to have a tanker downrange, because they can't take off with full tanks. So they take off and they have to go right to the tanker and tank up. And then up they go to 85,000 feet, whereas we're up there at 70,000 feet, and they're doing 7.5 Mach. But at the other end is another 2 tankers.
Wow.
He has to come down. It has to be 2, because if it was only one, something failed, SR's gone. He's gone. He's got to go down. So think of all of that, the money involved, and what's going on also in an SR-71 is you are going to tankers, so you can't just go play around like we could in the U-2. We could, hey Jeff, we need you on this track, we think we got something going on. Okay, a couple buttons and off I go to somewhere else. SR-71's got to go to get the gas. So it turned into be a satellite, if you look at it that way.
Right.
They can't do this and look around. It's a satellite. The bad guys see them coming. They quit doing what they're doing and they fly back over. And so the cost of the SR and the fact that it just turned into a satellite is why it went away. But boy, what an airplane. They used to go, from what I know on the SR guys, about once a month they would go right over Pyongyang, and this is for all you do. This boom's for you, is what they would say. They could do nothing. The missiles couldn't get to them or anything. Kaboom, boom. You know, just right over the city.
Wow.
You two, we're out there doing, hey, we need you over here. We think we saw something. Okay, off you go. You go different places. You don't have to worry about all that other stuff.
Were you stealth enough, or were you being monitored by the enemy as well? I mean,
Oh, the enemy can, they know, they probably in most places know where we are. But we're not going into their territory. Sometimes I have a little problem with calling us, it's called a spy plane. We're a reconnaissance aircraft.
Oh, okay.
It really is what it is.
Okay.
But some people like, I'm a spy, you know. It's like, I'm not. I'm a reconnaissance dude, you know. So, like, in Korea, I think that's almost the closest to some events have happened there because we were so close.
No, you could have.
Guys coming up, MiGs coming up, you know, and you can see their trails coming up. And there's ways that we can get away from them, but they're crazy people, I think, you know. They are. I mean, just look at them, North Korea.
Right.
And I watched like a hawk every time I flew in Korea because I didn't trust them. And nothing happened, but every once in a while you'd see some trails down there from a you know, a MiG or something like that.
Huh.
But they would tell us what it is and where it is, and
Yeah.
you're, you know, 60 miles away from it. The guys down below you're talking to and all this stuff.
You're not giving any
No.
top secret
Nope. This is
stuff
all
away,
old school
right?
stuff.
Oh.
This is
Yeah.
all old school stuff, yeah.
Well, you know, you mentioned that, you know, the tours in Korea or the missions in Korea, and then you said there was others that you just went off.
Well-
Further in your career, did you do any of those missions?
Well,
or-
it depended on where you were. I don't. A couple times in Korea, I went up going to the East Coast, and then came back. But typically for me, I was just doing the bow tie. And
Saudi Arabia, you went on.
well, yeah. Well, that's a different story.
yeah, that's what I meant. Some of those
okay.
missions where
Okay, yeah.
you're off, they don't know where.
That was Korea, and I
Okay,
probably ran
yeah.
that too long.
No.
But it was fascinating.
Yeah.
Great stuff. And then my next deployment was to, where did I?
Cyprus or Florida?
I think I went to Florida. We had we have a detachment there, and they that's kind of like they're working with drug stuff.
Oh, okay.
And all kinds of stuff, you know, as far as down south, and I only went there a couple times, and it was nice to be in Florida, but I didn't feel like I was doing much, but I don't know what I was doing. A lot of times when we're flying, we're not told what we're doing.
Huh.
You know, okay, they may give us a track, and hey, where are we going? Just keep going, you know. We have people that watch us, watch them, and sometimes it just changes and stuff like that. But that was pretty cool. I had an interesting U2 thing. Thanks for bringing up Florida. So you remember the Challenger blew up after it took off out of Florida. Real tragic. So the program was down. The NASA program was down while they were, you know, fixing it back up, and I ended up going to Florida, and I was going to get this really interesting flight, or hopefully not a flight. Here was the deal. They were the next time they flew the orbiter, they had a satellite in it, and it had particles in it and stuff like that, and nuclear stuff. And if it would have blown up like the Challenger, we could have had all kinds of crap in the air and stuff like that. So Jeff, you're going on this mission, and it is one of those missions where we can sample outside stuff. And so here I was. They set me up facing the Cape, quite a few miles away. I was suited up. I was already, pumped up. I forgot to mention that you don't take off in a U-2 until you've been breathing pure oxygen for an hour. So then you go in the. But anyways, so the thing was, okay, I'm sitting there. This is open. My crew is down here, and my job was to, if the orbiter took off and blew up again from 20,000 feet to 80,000 feet, I was to take off and go in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out of the debris, whatever it was going to be. And so that was one of those days where I said, I hope I don't fly today. And I didn't have to fly today. And the cool thing about it was, once it did hit 80,000 feet, I was able to open everything up and, get out of the plane, and all was good. But I still got a mission patch on my thing, because I was there, and I was going to go through that radioactivity, I was ready to do it. But that was kind of neat. And then there was the Gulf War. And that was, of course, a whole different ballgame. We were in Taif, which is a big city, kind of south, we were stationed down there because we were able to take off and go for long periods of time, and that's what they needed. That was kind of neat, us watching how they played the chess game. And why are you guys here? Well, the reason is the A-10s don't have any gas, after they do a couple missions. But you guys got a lot, so we're going to make you just like 2 hours droning up there to the war, and then doing whatever we're doing there, and then droning back. So that was kind of interesting. And plus, there were so many airplanes around us, of course, beneath us. And we had AWACS, we could talk to them, and things like that. So it wasn't like, we didn't feel like at some places, like at Cyprus, you're not going to hear anybody, and you better not hear anybody, that kind of thing. Whereas out of Taif, it was just, all kinds of stuff, and you could listen to other airplanes and what was going. I was doing night flying, and that was crazy, because I'm looking down.
Oh, really?
All night long.
Really?
All night long, yeah. And we were looking for scuds, is what they said. And I never had anybody get close to me. We had one guy where they think a MiG made a try at him, and it didn't work. So I remember the war planners saying we can count on losing 3 U-2s. I heard them saying that.
Really?
And we didn't lose a damn thing. Yeah, everything worked, and everybody got home. It was because what I think is they were getting the bad guys were getting hammered so bad that they didn't want to take all the time it takes to find a U-2 because you have to use a lot of energy to find it, and then and so if they turn their thing on to shoot the missile, boom, somebody else has got them already.
Right.
So they didn't have time to play with us. Is why I think we didn't have anybody come get us. They could have, though. I mean, they had equipment and stuff to. I can't talk about evasive, because I don't. It's probably the same thing, but there's ways to, save yourself and things like that.
So there's quite a bit of stuff that, I mean, to this day you still can't talk about.
Best not to,
Yeah.
because I don't know anymore.
Yeah.
So I and nobody. Most of those things are kind of, not interesting to somebody who's really. The Cyprus thing, that was another one of the detachments. What a place! What a place! It just and I can imagine right now with what's going on in Israel, there's probably 4 or 5 U-2s out there. Probably, I don't know, but that's what I would think.
Right. Sure.
All over the place. But that it was a UN mission, and that was what was interesting was. and it was only a 5-hour mission. We didn't, usually it was 9. The UN mission was, we were monitoring Camp David Accord stuff, tanks, planes and stuff like that, and we got authority to fly over what we would consider, the bad guys. But it's UN, and so when you're sitting there and the airplane's running, and when everybody chimes in from their country and they say, yep, 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 off you go. But you have to wait till they chime in till you go. And then, so that was looking down what those guys are looking down right now all over the place, just going, wow, I never thought I'd be over here, and that was really neat. And plus, Cyprus was just a beautiful place.
Yeah, right. Were you able to take family with you on these assignments, or
no?
Yeah, okay.
We could.
Yeah.
Linda could have come, but it's just too far away, and we had the kids at the time and stuff like that. But
right.
Korea, sometimes the guys will have their wives or come out and stuff like that, because there's all kinds of facilities and things like that. But Cyprus was a beautiful place. It was a British base. They claim that that's where the spies go to not spy anymore. But I guess in the Middle East there's all kinds of that stuff going on, and I don't know what's going on. But they go to I guess it's like a timeout time.
Okay.
For the rest of the spies that hate each other. Don't shoot. If they start shooting at each other, somebody's going to stop the whole thing. No, we need to have a break, and that's what they said. But it was a wonderful place. One of the things that you had to watch out for in Cyprus, the U2, the maximum crosswind in landing is 15 knots, because it's really small tail, and it's tough. And a lot of times Cyprus goes into 25 and 30 knots of wind, and we'll end up just sitting up there waiting for it to come down. And if it doesn't come down, there's really no place that you can go that is okay by our people and their people. They know it's a spy plane, and so you're sitting up there going, I need to get that tailwind down, guys. Come on, I faced it, when it was right at the limit, but there were times when guys had to kind of slid off the runway to make it happen, because Beirut is ahead of you. What are you going to do? Right. So that was an interesting place, and we weren't there. We weren't supposed to say U.S., and we didn't have to cut our hair, and we could do this.
Right. Okay.
And they didn't care, but they knew who we were. We're flying U2s every morning out of there. They knew what we were doing.
Well, the headwinds kind of segues into talking about landings. Talk a little bit. Sorry to interrupt your story,
No problem.
chronology, but talk. You said that kind of a hairy sort of situation, and talk about that whole.
It's hard to land.
Yeah.
And that is because of that 15-knot tailwind requirement. And all I can say is, well, first I didn't bring up much about the chase car.
That whole thing.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
And when you get in there, you get up to 110 knots, but the airplane's only doing 73. But most runways have things like this and then things like that. So you have to get all your smash out here in the car and then get on the brakes. So it's fascinating driving, and it's fun. But they are there to be behind whichever side you want to be of the landing U2, and from 10 feet you start calling out what you're doing.
What
The
your
guy that's doing
altitude
the
is.
you're
20,
10 feet.
30.
Okay.
10 feet at the T is what we always say for them. 10 feet tall, right at the end, and that's where you want to be. So there's 10 at the T, 5, 4, 5, 4, back up to 5, down to 3, and you're doing all left rudder, because of the crosswind. you're literally talking like that to the new guys.
Yeah,
Is
okay.
where you're hearing this. But we still get the honor of having that because, especially if you've been, let me put it this way. When you've been on a real mission in Korea or whatever, you will always have that guy. But when you're at BL training, you're going to be working twice as hard because you're working with the students and the airplane. If you ever want to watch that, go on YouTube and just say YouTube landings.
Okay.
You'll get some good laughs. It's amazing. They're all over the place.
Isn't part of it because of the inline wheels and they have to have the pogos to help because the wings are so long that they'll tip towards the end?
That is, especially if you're not very good at it. You have to push fuel from one tank to another by feel. This isn't. This is old school stuff. So before you land, you sit there and you go, you let go of the plane and it starts going like this, and you go, okay, 1 potato, 2 potato, and it starts coming back around, and eventually the airplane goes like that. If you're really not looking at that and you're coming into land, you're going to be going like this in the airplane, and the guy in the car is going to go around. It's hard. It's a very hard airplane to land.
And it's all pretty fast. I mean, those are fast decisions, right?
Yeah, 73. Yeah, but it's still a slow airplane if you want to think about it.
But I mean,
but stuff is happening. Yeah. And especially your rudder pedals, you're going to go like this, and you're doing everything. And a lot of the new guys, they come out soaking wet after like a 2-hour mission, just soaking wet because of it's very, very, very tough. And then 6 months later, you're like, yeah, I got this, kind of. But one time only in Korea, the wind was beyond 15, and all the ops were out there, and I can't remember what he said. It was like, gotta do this, kid. It's like, I know I gotta do it, and I landed the damn plane. But it's always about the landing. It's always about that. And those pogo things, that's another things that are funny when you watch, if you look at the YouTube takeoffs. They are, all that gas is in those wings, 104 feet, lots of gas in there. And so these pogos are in the sides of the wings, and that's for taxiing out and everything. You got to keep them like that. And then once you get on the runway, the guys come out and they unpin those things, but they're still in the sockets. But now they're ready to fall off.
Okay. Yeah.
And so then when you take off, the wings just go. You can just see the wings going like this, just because it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so then you see those things rolling down the road and everything, and then the maintenance guys with the pickup trucks come and get that stuff and get that out of there. So there's all kinds of really crazy things with the U-2 when it comes to landing and taking off. It's just very unique.
Wow.
Airplane. It really is.
And what's it like for us land lovers that have never been up like that to be behind that much power? I mean,
it's pretty cool. The T-38 that's fast and wonderful, and at the end of the runway, you can just pretty much go straight up. But a U-2. Let's say this is a training U-2, so you don't have all the stuff in it and you don't have all the gas in it. You take off at about 300 feet, and it just goes boom, and it just goes. 160 miles an hour is all you can give it, and it's just going.
Do you remember what angle?
The angle?
The number, the angle?
It was well over 80. 80, yeah, no, not 80. It wouldn't have been that. It's where it's off scale. So it's just you just fly 160, and then at some point in time you graduate to another thing, and then there's a point to where you put things on the autopilot, and then you start doing other things so that you can do other things, and so it's kind of a little bit of work involved and stuff like that, but super. I'm glad I had the opportunity to fly it.
But you'd have opportunities, I think you mentioned during missions to look out and observe and kind of just.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. It's got a nice canopy, nice big good canopy there, and but the thing is, if you want to look over here, you kind of got to grab your bar and go like this, because you can't really move your head that much. It's really like that. So if you want to look over here, you kind of go like that. Go like that, and then what's really cool is when the weather is perfect. We have these things above us, and they're cards, and actually has mission stuff on it, but we can roll that out the way, and then go like this, and you can see stars in the daytime. Yeah, just a few of them, but it's really neat. It's not. It's 70,000 feet. You can tell you're way high. You can see the curve, not very much, but you can see the curve. What really comes out when the sun comes down, there's just this ribbon of blue and yellow, and then it just goes away, and it's like, that's cool, yeah.
Wow. Did they call that the Terminator?
Terminator. Yeah. That was neat. I remember, just to give some ideas of how far you're looking down, I've been over San Francisco and seen Seattle and Los Angeles. Just the lights. Wow. And same in Florida. I saw the whole panhandle in Florida at night, and that's kind of neat.
The pyramids.
Yeah.
Did you see the pyramids?
I didn't see them. Because they're flat when you're that high.
Oh.
You don't see much of that.
You were by the Suez Canal?
All over.
The Suez Canal.
Yeah. What else?
So the golf was your last assignment?
No, then I did the Cypress thing, and then I came back and I got one more. They made me an instructor at that point in time.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, I'd rather not. And they said, sorry, we need you. You're going to be doing instructor. Because I wanted more time. I only got 850 hours of the U2, and the magic thing is 1,500, or even 1,000 is great. And I never made it because they needed instructors, but that's okay. And then I got
missions, 55 missions.
55 missions, yeah. I ended up getting one last trip out to Korea, and that was it. That was my last actual, thing. So.
And that was pretty much kind of the game plan you had set up for yourself to get that experience, and then get out of the service and go to the airlines, or
well, yeah. I knew I was gonna go to the airlines because I wanted to do something for my family.
Yeah.
Instead of like with the U2, there's a lot of separations. Let's put it that way in that community. I wanted to be home more often, even though you're not home that often in the airline business. When you're gone for 30 hour
2 to 3 months at a time.
2 to 3 months at a time.
That
gets tough.
Days.
Yeah. So and so I did that for the family, and it was right for me, because I kind of had this feeling like, okay, things are starting to happen, and I've had a good run. Let's do something else.
Oh right. Yeah.
We had quite a few accidents while I was there, and that was upsetting.
And it sounds like it's a pretty tight brotherhood. I mean,
it's a huge brotherhood.
Yeah.
And we got sisterhood now.
Right.
I was there when the first female that came, she couldn't do a thing. She couldn't even open her canopy. And so it was obvious.
Troy?
You can't do that.
Oh, no,
the girl
somebody else.
before Troy,
Who's
yeah.
the-
And then this gal, Troy Devine, and everybody's like, she a stripper? Because of her name.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, Troy Devine. And she turned out to be one of those people that, where do you get such people?
Really?
And then the second one, female, same thing. She's now a medical doctor.
Jolene Espinosa.
Yeah, and she's
Chuck.
done all this stuff. And where do we get these people? They're amazing. It was brotherhood, but the brotherhood, they understand that it goes right into the sisterhood too. And the gals are out there kicking ass and taking names, and and I remember when the reason back in the day in the Air Force, a woman flying an airplane, a tanker or something like that, that's fine. But if a woman's flying an airplane that you have to eject out of because you're in bad territory,
Right.
that's when the guys are going, no, we can't have our gals going. Well, the girls say, don't worry about us, we're going to do, we can do this. And they did it for us in the U2 program. I mean, they were just amazing. Just amazing. And no problems, no thises or that's or anything like that. It was, we just had the right people. And I was real happy with that. Everybody gets a call sign. That's kind of fun.
And yours was?
Well, it's weak because nobody really got me, but my last name is Gruver, and they call me Groove.
Oh, okay.
Nobody caught me doing something stupid.
Oh, okay.
Usually you gotta get caught doing something
Yeah,
stupid,
okay.
and I didn't get that.
You were usually the one giving call
Oftentimes.
names. Yeah.
Oftentimes. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, it's a good time, and like I said, like you said, the camaraderie and whatnot, it's just.
Which I would imagine had to make those accidents harder and the loss. I mean,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. One of the guys had 5 children. Yeah.
Lived around the corner from us.
Yeah.
Went down at the end of the runway, had to drive past the burn mark every day. She left with her kids off the base.
But in all of the militaries, aviation, it's stuff's gonna happen eventually. And you have to
And you kind
be
of sense
aware
that.
of that, and just be one of those people that is watching out for something that's gonna come wrong. You just it was tough, especially when Marty.
I was just gonna say Marty McGregor was really tough.
Yeah, and
That was in the over the
there was an area where very rare area of turbulence up at that altitude, really rare. Usually it's summertime, and it's on the east coast of of Korea, and he was doing a night mission, and he was still climbing, but he was up through 65,000 feet or something like that, and he went through it at the nighttime, which is rare, and it just basically broke his airplane apart.
Oh, man.
And he ejected, was alive when he got to his raft, but he was dead when they found him the next day because he had a big contusion. Something from the airplane hit him in the head, and he was hanging on to his raft, and we never got to him. And he was one of those guys, if you had ever met him, you would just go, God, what a great person.
Yeah.
And it's always that guy.
Yeah.
And then Randy Roby, a week before he got out, and he was going to
he was going to United Airlines. It was his last flight, and the airplane failed him.
That was another cockpit.
Yeah. Airplane failed him.
Blunt force,
yeah.
And you, I think you kind of alluded to it, but you got out for family and such, but you felt like you had a good run and kind of sensed that.
I had an excellent run.
That maybe
I did
that
it just,
my luck was going to catch up to me, or did you ever have that feeling
I
at all?
didn't have that feeling. I really didn't. I probably should have. But I didn't have that feeling
Oh, okay.
at all. I'm lucky in the fact that I still stepped to my plan that, okay, when I'm done with the Air Force, me and the family were going to go do that thing. And so everybody knew we were going to do that. And because of that, I was getting out. Usually you get this big party and they give you all the champagne and all the stuff. They gave me a guy that was having a problem, and I took him up, and he couldn't find where he was going, and we landed. And then the second one was I didn't even get to land the plane. And
For the Finney flight?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, for the T-38.
so what? So what?
Yeah.
I got what I wanted, and I gave the Air Force what they wanted,
Yeah,
and I did it as well as I could.
Yeah.
I got nothing bad to say about the Air Force.
Right,
Nothing at all. It's changed over 30 years from what I hear. But when I was in the Air Force, I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
The people, it's all good.
Right, and you talk about, where do they get these people, these great people? And it's like most people probably don't want to talk about it, but don't you consider yourself one of the great people? I mean,
I consider myself a fairly average guy, but I have a thing for flying, and I can fly probably anything.
okay.
That's my niche. Other than that, I'm pretty average dude, I would say.
Okay.
Actually, yeah. On a Harley. But a very, very, very good life in the military.
Well, let's go. Okay, so you get out and take your story from there now back into civilian life. And how was that going from military life to civilian life? Was that much of an adjustment for you?
Well, it was great.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Because I'd always wanted to be an airline pilot.
Oh, okay.
So it was great. My first assignment in San Francisco, I was a DC-10 engineer, sitting sideways. I'm not even flying the dang thing. And this is great, because it was a great big giant airplane, and I always wanted to fly a great big giant airplane. And all we did was go to Hawaii and come back, and it was great. I enjoyed the heck out of it, and that was also, for somebody who's flying single-seat airplanes, now you're in a crew cockpit type thing, and it's good to have been able to see from a standby of the engineer to watch the captain and the co-pilot, how that works. So by the time I was ready to jump in at a two-seat airplane, I was all ready for all that, that whole thing. It was, the whole United thing was, I was lucky with them. I got on with them at the right time. I got to fly all kinds of really good airplanes. I got to work with really good people. And then COVID happened, and then every other thing started happening, and that was about the time for me to get out of there. So I got lucky.
You said 28 years with the Army? Wow. Wow.
And
28 years flying, he's still with them. He won't retire until he's 65.
so I got a year and a half or so.
Yeah.
So you still help out with training and stuff down in Denver, or what?
No.
Well, no, I did the training for 3 years. I first I did the sitting sideways in the DC-10, and then I flew the 737, which is, back then it was a little tiny guy.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was fun. It was a great airplane to fly. It was.
You were in a 747 too.
But that's when I went to the training center, and I became a 747 instructor.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, when I applied to be an instructor, because they were looking for people. I don't know why then back, but my paperwork came back and they said, you're going to be flying 747s. And I went, wait a second, I just been flying 737s and I can put one of those in my garage. That's the biggest airplane in the skies. Yeah, we know. And I go, but the crews they're not going to have any, they're going to think that I've never flown this thing before, and I'm going to be an instructor. And I go, by the time you're done with our training, you will know everything about that airplane, and don't worry.
Huh.
And it was that way, literally.
Huh.
I mean, at first I had to learn to be an engineer again. So I had to do that and do a couple legs of that, and boom, 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 and then I take another class, and that is the flying class, where your co-pilot and captain do that. Great airplane,
Yeah.
great training program. Again, lucky me, I had the right airline, the right people, the right times. Lucky me. And I flew 757s and Airbuses towards the end. Airbus, a nice little airplane. All is well. It was, once again, Jeff scores out, and everything worked out for him.
Yeah, I imagine you've seen a lot of changes technology-wise through your career. Air
Boy,
Force.
well, like the DC-10,
Yeah.
sitting there is no such thing anymore as an engineer.
Right.
There is no such thing. And you talk about some new guy that's going to a DC-10, and he'd be going, "What? They don't even have those." And you go, "No kidding." Yeah, they took all that stuff and put it into one little overhead thing, and made it. Well, think about it. That's one more person that they don't have to pay, and
Right.
all that stuff. But,
Right.
I enjoy the flying at United quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you love people too, and you loved the passengers.
Yeah, I was kind of that
You
kind of
would
guy,
old school,
greeting the passengers and
stand
stuff
at
like
the
that.
door.
Yeah, kids especially.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Hey, Jimmy,
Yeah.
want to come up here?
Yeah.
Gotta see your mom first.
Yeah. Right. Gladiators.
Yeah, and that stuff, and saying goodbye, and I've met some people from. Who did I?
A lot of famous people.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but for me, it was always the musicians, not the
Oh,
not the football people and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But what's his name?
Neil Young.
Yeah, Neil Young. Yeah. I was sitting sideways in a DC-10, and we flew him to Hawaii, and the captain on this one was he was not a good guy. The
Yeah.
co-pilot
Yeah.
kept looking at me going, "God, let's get out of here."
Oh,
We
boy.
landed out there in Hawaii. They go downstairs to do the paperwork, and they're yelling at each other as they're walking to do that. I've never seen that before, but that. But I went out to go do the walk around the airplane, and there's Neil Young standing there, and I went,
In
Wow.
first class, yeah.
"Wow!" And I was just like trying to figure out what would he be doing, and his wife was gathering some little things, and then I noticed he was going to a wheelchair. So then I went over there and said, "Mr. Young, can I help you with your son in your wheelchair?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, maybe you can." So they had the thing in that airplane. It goes down like that to the cockpit, and the aisle goes like that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not big enough to go out that bread truck thing to get him down. So then we were like, "What?" So just Neil and Neil. I keep saying Armstrong. Neil Young. I got the back wheels, he got the front wheels, and did that, and so we could get him in the little thing that took him down and everything like that. And I'm the kind of guy that doesn't, give out that I was like, happy and woo,
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
They oftentimes don't want to hear from us, so you can tell. But I went back and said to his wife, I said, "Hey, thank you for all that wonderful music you gave us. I'll let him know."
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So it was kind of fun meeting us. Kenny Wayne Shepherd, if you know him, he was on my airplane.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had a delay, and I sat there and talked about 20 minutes, and he talked about guitars and hot cars.
Oh, okay.
Stuff
Right
like
to
that.
right up your rank.
And I've never, as a captain, I've never had somebody give me shit, or excuse me, if you treat them well, they'll treat you well, and so I've never really had a problem with the passenger with that kind of thing. And I've only had 2 emergencies, and that over 28 years, that's pretty good. That has shut down an engine in a 737. And then the other one, we lost we lost our pressurization.
Oh, really?
Down we
Oh.
went, yeah.
Oh boy.
And diverted it into somewhere in Florida. I can't remember.
Huh.
That was it in 28 years. I mean, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, yeah.
That's real good. Again, I was just enough
Yeah.
to make it.
Yeah, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that I get off track here, but we're talking Neil Young and then Neil Armstrong. Talk about meeting him. That's a fascinating story.
Yeah, that was. He had a show called First Flights, and at one of the episodes came along, and they did it on the U2 and then the SR-71 after that. But so he's coming to Beale Air Force Base, and they put a thing in everybody's hat and Groove, it's yours. So it's like, by luck, I got that. And so we're gonna fly with Neil Armstrong, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so cool. This guy's like, he's the guy. He doesn't have a call sign, does he? I don't think so. Anyways, what I thought was funny was when everybody was getting around talking about how this is going to work, and do you think he's going to want to go high? And I went, what? Yeah, he walked on the moon. No, he doesn't want to go high. 70,000 feet is not high for him. It's like, give me a break. So we on the first day, I met him, and we went into one of the training rooms, and they gave me an hour and a half to train him. And that was ridiculous, because he knows how to fly before we're even going to talk about it. He knows what, and he's never been in one even. So I sat there, and I knew that, and I didn't want to take his time away from him. So I took what needed to be. Of course, you're talking about landings. So, because that's, I don't care who you are, the first time you try it, it's going to mess you up, and then the next one will be okay. So I told him how the thing works, and that's kind of weird. And he goes, yeah, I've seen that configuration before, but yeah, we'll work with that. And we talked for about 15 minutes, and then I just went, and then I just went, Mr. Armstrong, I don't want to waste your time, and you obviously know what I've given you is what is all we really need to know. Do you want some more? Do you want some less? He goes, well, no, I think that was a great brief. I said, well, I could take you back to your crew room, or I could take you to the Heritage Room, which is the bar. And he goes, well, I'd like to go there. So we go walking in there, and it was still about 4 o'clock, which is a little bit early sometimes for the boys coming in. And he was wearing just a regular, just looked like a guy, like a professor, like he is,
Okay. Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Right.
And me, and then so we got in there, and I got his beer for him, and got his beer, and we're sitting there, and guys are just talking until one of the guys, I could tell, he goes, hey, Steve, that's Neil Armstrong over there. It's like, no shit, hey, Bob. That it just started going, and all these guys started coming in, everybody started coming in. And then everybody knew who it was. And he's just sipping his beer. And then he did what I would think that most people would do, aviators, was, he was, hey, what was your favorite airplane, and, blah, 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 and dancing around the fact that he's the man on the moon, because he didn't want to be the uncool guy. So So we're sitting there, and it gets quiet, and he goes, "Hey guys, it's okay, guys, if you want to ask me what it was like, because every time somebody asks, I have something else to say because I'm still actually blown away. What was it like to be on the moon?" And everybody's going nuts, you know. It was such a funny thing because nobody wants to be the dork, you know. Yeah. So that was fun, and he was just a wonderful guy. Then that was that evening we had dinner with all the colonels and all that stuff, and we got to sit on his table because we were going to be flying together, and so he got to get to know him and things like that. And then the next morning was horrible. It was rainy, windy, just yuck. Terrible. But we have, I forgot to mention, when you're flying a real 9-hour plus flight, you get steak or chicken of your choice for breakfast because it's high protein, low high protein, low residue.
Okay.
And so like 3 a.m, some poor guy's got to come and make a steak for me, you know. But I'm going up to 70,000 feet, so I'll be back. Anyways, they still made that of it, you know, having the we're gonna have their flight food and a little bit of steak and everything, and like you said, we were talking and everything, and he talked to Linda's guy, and he was just such a nice guy. We got to the airplane. They put a bunch of small cameras in his. He was in the back. I was in the back. He was in the front. Anyways, so we got all done up, but of course just regular flight suits, not the big stuff.
Right.
Taxied out, rain. I said, "Sir, I can't believe this weather." He goes, "Well, it doesn't matter. We'll get the footage. We're going to be fine." And so take off, level off at about 1,000 feet, and I go and I demonstrate for him the first regular landing. And of course, it was perfect. And off we went. Yeah, in the U2, you never just kind of climb up. You always just, for some reason, because you can. And so came around, and I gave him the stick, but it's actually a, you know.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it's a yoke. And he flew almost perfectly all the way down for the first time, but I couldn't help myself because when you land a U2, you need to land tail wheel first and then the front wheel, and that means it's done. There's no more lift. That's why you want to do it. You don't want to do this and go like that.
Oh, okay.
It's called a skip. Because I'm always cranking on people and making stupid jokes. We're coming down final. He's doing great, and Neil Armstrong goes ba-dink, but it was a small one, and then ba-dink, and then off he went, and I got on the radio and I went, "That's one small skip for man." And then I just went, is there a way he can eject me out of here or whatever? But the crews, the guys that were working with him and doing all the stuff on the ground, they were dying laughing because they were hearing us. Dying laughing. And nothing from Neil. Not a damn thing. But I don't think he would have said anything anyways, because that's the way he is. He's the professor, man. He's like, this is all he's thinking about. And I'm thinking about making a stupid joke. So anyways, now when I go out to Beale, that was the guy that said, you know.
Now is that episode, can that be found for viewers?
I have it pulled up, yeah.
Is it on it's not on like YouTube or anything like?
Yeah, it's
that a viewer that may see this may want to come dig up?
Yeah.
Amazon,
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. And YouTube.
But he was super the whole time. What a thrill to be around him, just to be around him. Wow.
I can't remember when we talked years ago. Did you get a chance to meet Gary Powers?
No.
No.
But Gary Powers' son,
Maybe that
his
was it.
son, was here.
Oh yeah, but Fort Collins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I did talk to him.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a story in itself, isn't it? Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
His dad he did the right thing. You know, but yeah.
Well, let's shift gears then and talk. You're talking about, but let's back up. Talk about meeting and wooing Linda and family and personal life and hobbies and just we'll start winding it down with that a little bit.
Oh boy, I gotta switch my gears then, huh?
Yeah.
So we're at the point to where I'm done with United Airlines.
So Jeff, let's jump from aviation to personal life. Talk about how you met Linda and wooed her and your family and the kids, grandkids. Anything you want to talk about there?
You said grandkids. We don't have any yet.
Oh,
But,
okay.
yes, I met Linda at Utah State University, and I was walking up the quad, as they call them.
Yeah.
And there was this pretty little girl throwing a frisbee with one of my roommates, and gosh, I don't know, 8 years later, we were married.
Yeah.
8 years. It took 8 years,
That was 1980. Yeah,
yeah.
7 years later.
you know, we did all kinds of things together, and she had a horse out there, and we had a lot of fun. We did a lot of skiing together out there because the skiing was right there, right next to the university. And just I had all kinds of fun stuff. And
Where'd we get married?
Lubbock, Texas.
Yeah,
Love it.
married
We
in
got
Lubbock.
married in Lubbock, Texas.
So you were in the Air
Air
Force.
Force at that
Okay.
point in time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was teaching as a butter bar lieutenant at that point in time. And to be perfectly honest, I think we had a nice time in Lubbock because we had good friends.
Great.
We had
Yeah.
great Air Force friends, and so you can go through anything if you got good friends. And so we have almost all those people at our wedding. We still know each other and the whole 9 yards, and it's one of those family things from the Air Force, kind of thing. And then we moved to South Dakota, and that's when
Taylor Whaler.
we had our little Taylor Whaler, we call her, and just a perfect little girl. They're still working for a place on Mount Rushmore. They're going to put her face in there. I keep telling her that, even though she's 36.
Born on my birthday.
Yep, they share the same birthday, and just beautiful girls. And then 2 years later, we're in California, and here comes another little girl, and that was.
I think I had her right before you it was right around the time you soloed in you two.
Yeah.
My grandmother was living with us
Yeah.
at the time.
So I can't be happier or more. What would you say? My girls. Oh, proud. Yeah, my daughters are.
Yeah.
They're doing their own thing. They're doing it right. They're good people. There's just something about. Well, I always say I was gone when this was happening, and Linda took care of that. And there's probably some of that. But when I was home with the kids.
Yeah.
I loved them.
And then certainly by all means, the military spouses and families are the unsung heroes, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. But then one moved to Hoboken, the other went to Honolulu, so they went as far away from me as they could. I can't figure that one out. Yeah. No, not hearing anything about any.
We have grandpuppies.
Yeah.
Well, Taylor followed in Dad's footsteps and went to the Coast Guard Academy.
Oh.
And she wanted to be a third-generation military officer.
Yeah.
So she went Coast Guard, graduated, met her husband there. They didn't get married till they got out. And She was on a ship out of Seattle and Intel and
She was good
Alameda.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, really good.
They have this thing called Eagle Tiger Cruise in the Coast Guard and the Navy, and what that meant was if there's room for parents, we could get on the ship and go for a cruise with them. And ours happened to be from San Francisco to Seattle. This is 3 days.
Nice.
And I've never been more blown away with my daughters than when watching my daughter take command of the ship. I mean, taking command of the ship. And I'm like,
Was it
wow.
378 or
378, yeah, 378,
cutter.
yeah. And just so proud, you know, how wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Just wonderful. And then our other daughter, she's built her own business. She teaches people how to figure skate, and she has her own business and is doing wonderfully and is happy and has a great husband, and don't know what to say, man. Once again, I'm a lucky guy.
Yeah, boy.
I'm just lucky.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And you said that everybody in the family likes to collect back here in Colorado and take motorcycle trips
Off
and
we
Sturgis.
go up to Sturgis, you betcha.
Yeah.
And the girls ride really well too. One of my favorite things is when we pull into a gas station, and all three of the girls take their helmets off, and all this beautiful hair comes down, and all these people are going like that, you know, and I'm over there going, that's me. It's awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's become a family thing going to Sturgis, and a lot of people think, well, what are crazy people and stuff. It's wonderful. You find people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And it's just a wonderful place. And we lived there. We enjoyed living there.
Right,
It was a beautiful place.
Yeah.
It's a great place to. The winters are really rough, but Rapid City and that area is fun, and we enjoy going up there with them. Yes, indeed.
Well, let's step back now and really kind of mop up, and we'll wind down this. Linda, I'm going to have you jump in here, and you will as well, Jeff. If there's anything
Sure.
I didn't ask you, or any of the stories that have kind of floated to the top that you want to talk about, or questions, or Linda, the things that he's left out that you think are important for him to say, or do you, if you think maybe we rounded it out and caught it all, we can wind her down. So.
It's hard thinking about a whole lifetime, you know,
no kidding. Yeah.
in this
Undoubtedly.
space.
Yeah.
Because it really was a whole lifetime. Yeah.
It's been great.
Yeah. No, very
Been
good.
good. We have been blessed for sure. A lot of adventure. Not too many tough times. I'd say, you know, the loss of friends over the years in aviation was tough.
Yeah.
But
And how was that for you? I mean, like Jeff said a number of times, you know, he had to go away for long periods of time, and not only being away, but in some sense harm's way. I mean, how was it from a military spouse?
well, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm super independent. I am super capable, and I'm super giving, you know, and I think that everybody should live their life the way they want to, and if that was him flying airplanes, then I'll ride horses while you're gone. And the kids were great to raise, never a problem. Yeah, it was good. I mean, we've been in this home for 30 years. I love this home, and out in the country is nice, and so pretty lucky, pretty blessed. We have a lot of respect for each other, and we've been together, 43 years now?
Wow.
And it's been great, all of them. Totally blessed.
I feel the same way.
Yeah, never, I mean, there were times, got in a head-on car collision when he was in Saudi Arabia.
Of course, when I'm gone.
I was on my way back from work in California. My grandmother lived with us, so she was home with the girls. And I worked with the developmentally disabled adults, and I'd come back from a conference in San Francisco, stop by the office in Yuba City, and a gal who, it was raining, she was young, she didn't have her lights on, never saw her, hit me in an intersection. And I hit the steering wheel pretty hard. They carted me off in an ambulance, had the bruises around the steering wheel and my chest. And the hard part was it totaled our new car. And the commander got a hold of me and said, don't tell him what happened. Because he was in Saudi Arabia and they didn't want his mind off of the mission. And that was hard, having the military, somebody I don't know very well, try to tell me how to run my marriage. That was pretty hard.
Which was that?
And I told him...
Which was it that called?
It was the...
Yeah. Okay.
That guy.
That guy. I know what you're saying.
But I said to him... well, I need to talk to him because I need to know whether to buy a van or a sports car. And right now I'm thinking sports car. And so that all got worked out. His parents came up and helped me out because I couldn't, our daughter was, God, she was young. She wasn't even a year old yet, and I couldn't pick her up because I was so sore. And so his parents came up, and I ended up with a van. We bought a Ford van while he was gone.
So you didn't know until you got back then, or
I don't.
I think a little while later.
Yeah.
Once you were
word got out.
Yeah.
And
recovered.
said everything's fine. Got a new car. Yeah. I think one of my favorite memories is when you came back from your first TDY tour of duty yonder. Your first one to Korea, and I met you at the airport and. We got a sitter for the kids for the weekend.
Yeah.
With a Cheerio dress.
Yeah.
We stayed in that great bed and breakfast and went to Frank Fat's Asian restaurant that was kind of hoity-toity in Sacramento. And
I wouldn't have wanted any Korean food having been in Korea forever. And
that was the first time you were gone for 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
And it was just like pure happiness to have you back.
Yeah.
You know.
They gave us plenty of time when we did get back because they knew you got to prepare your families, and they maybe come into the squadron and do a couple things and go back home to your house, and that's what they did, which was smart of them because
they had like little seminars on separation anxiety and what actually happens before they leave, and then when they're gone for that long and you take over and you're doing the bills and you're doing everything, and then when they come back, how it's hard to adjust to not being into control anymore. It's a real thing. But work hard, play hard. We had a lot of great friends there. It was a great base. It was beautiful. Had a horse on base. So no regrets for sure.
Very good. Well, we'll wind down this interview. Jeff, I want to thank you for telling an incredible story, but more importantly, I want to thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I really do. So here are most of my patches, and they're from all over the place, and kind of U2 stuff. And here I was a student at F-Flight, and that was kind of a lot of memory. I like this one. We had to make up our own things for these, and these guys came up with land softly and carry a big stick. And I thought that was pretty good. Some people didn't understand that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And then again, this is the one where I would have taken off had the orbiter blown up. So, but I got the badge anyways, like that. Osan, Korea. If you ever see that, that's the cat,
Gotcha.
black cat, and
Okay.
that's just kind of a really interesting place. Let's see, that's obviously at the Orient right there. This is over there in Cyprus, and so is that right there. It's olive harvest. That's the thing they got on there. But I thought it would be fun to put all my
Absolutely.
things on there.
Outstanding.
Yeah. And for those of you who flew T-38s, you could probably look and see where you were. That's Lubbock, Texas, and it's as flat as you can get. Great times there, and they're all gone, but that was a fun place to be. We actually enjoyed it. All right, that's obviously T-38s, and they're out of Lubbock, but they're on at ACE assignment, and we got an ability to get a fifth airplane so that we could make this picture, and I was the one that shot the picture, and I thought that was really fun. Some of my best friends flying right over Mount Rushmore, which you're not allowed to do unless you talk to you got to talk to a lot of people, and then they'll let you do that.
Very cool.
Kind of nice.
And you said that one of the pilots is the one that turned you on to the YouTube program?
Yeah, he had been in it, and he didn't say much about it, but he had been in it, and it was part of the process of me going,
And that was Dave Hensley.
Yeah. This is the picture of my class in T-38s out at Reese, and it's still one of my best friends right over here, Neville Barrett. We still talk to each other, and he's a wonderful guy, funny accent. And then right over here is Pamela Melroy, and there she was, a little girl going to learn how to fly a T-38, and then she flew the shuttle 3 times, and the last time she was the commander of the shuttle. Unbelievable. And right now, she's in NASA, and she's number 2. There's some really, really sharp people out there, I tell you what, man. Yeah, that's kind of neat. You never know what these people will become. And there's me again at Reese Air Force Base in front of my favorite airplane at the time, and it kind of probably still is. Beautiful airplane, T-38. That young guy on the left. Oh, that's me. Yeah, that's me and Neil Armstrong. He was working on his show. High flights or first flight, excuse me, and what a thrill it was to be around the guy and be able to talk to him. It was nice, just incredible.
These are just various plaques and books and such that you've got here. And how about talk a little bit about this here, Jeff? What do we've got going
that's
here?
That's something that comes around every year. That one of the SR-71 guys do every year, and so I get that in the mail. And this is basically the airplanes that we had at Beale Air Force Base. In the back, you'll see a tanker, and there's special tankers. They're only there to work for the SR-71 because they have to have a certain amount, certain type of fuel. So that's why they were there at Beale Air Force Base. They're no longer there. Then there's my beloved U-2 right here, and then right in front of there the T-38. And all of us U-2 guys still get to fly the T-38.
Oh,
so
very nice.
I never had to stop flying the T-38 until I became a civilian. And then for some reason they went to the standard green. But those of us who kept our green or the orange ones, when there was a party, we put those back on. And it's theoretically it's not legal, but nobody cares because it's just a suit.
So now you had the flight suit on, but did you have then an outer layer, the pressurized suit on top?
Oh, the pressurized suit is only a pressure suit. That's one thing.
I think you have
Oh, okay.
long
Yeah.
underwear.
There, Yeah, well, they measure everything when you go there to make sure. If you were to sit in that airplane for 9 hours and they didn't have it right, it would be bad. So they take a lot of time to fit you so that you can sit there very comfortably. And those guys that take care of our pressure suits, we consider them to be the best and the brightest, because without them we would die, literally. If one little ring on the wrist pops off, we're dead. And these guys take care of it. They maintain them and do the whole thing.
So the cockpit wasn't pressurized?
It was pressurized up to 27,000 feet. They've got it down to 14,000 feet now with the new version. But if you're flying along at 70,000 feet, rapid deep compression, and something didn't work, you would be dead. All it takes is a ring around the wrist.